Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to 5 quick tips to convert more real estate leads. This webinar is brought to you by the Red Pill Investor Podcast, and I would encourage you to visit our site after the webinar for even more free information. Before we start, feel free to tweet your questions directly to me at Karl K. Realtor or use the chat box there, and I'll answer your question as quickly as possible. I've got a lot of information that I want to share with you, and I promise not to take more than 15 minutes. So let's start off by talking about lead conversion. After all, this is where the battle is won or lost. I mean, if you can't get a lead and convert it, then you are in real trouble if you're a real estate wholesaling investor or a realtor. You see, in over 19 years as a real estate investor and broker, I've discovered that it's usually 3 things that hurt you the most when you're trying to grow your business. Usually, it's a lack of time, it's a lack of knowledge, or it's a lack of money. However, the path to success is fairly simple. Real estate itself is simple, but not easy. And what I've learned is that there's also 3 things you need to have to be wildly successful in real estate. The first is commitment to something greater than yourself, a willingness to learn because you can't know everything, and of course you need to have a sense of humor. By the way, my name's Karl Krentzel, and I run a podcast and a blog called The Red Pill Investor. And for 19 years, I've been a practicing realtor and investor in the state of Arizona, a broker by training, and an investor by choice. My method of wholesaling real estate is a system that I like to call the Red Pill Sales System. It's designed to take even the newest investor or realtor and teach them how to sell wholesale real estate in high volume systematically. I teach this system on my blog and podcast called The Red Pill Investor. I was the one who did the world's first wholesale deal live on Periscope for all the world to see. And I have over 475 episodes that are dedicated to teaching you the sales skills necessary to create a predictable, duplicatable, and systematic wholesaling business. But enough about me. Let's get started on the 5 tips you need to convert more leads. Now, I've tried to keep it short, relevant, and helpful, so I've placed them in reverse order, saving the best for last. The 5th, most powerful tip that I could give you today about lead conversion is win more by losing less. You see, if you take 2 people and set them on equal amounts of appointments, the person who wins more often than loses will make more money in the long run. Therefore, you must increase your skills so that you will make the most of every opportunity. Think about it. Firefighters don't practice on fake flames. You want to role play realistic scenarios. Make them as realistic as possible. Don't kid around. Practice with intensity. If you have intensity in your practice, your thoughts will become instinctual. Learn what to say in every sales situation. I mean, think about it. What objections stop you? They don't change, so learn the answers. Because it is absolutely true that when you know what to say, the fear goes away. The 4th most powerful idea I have for you today would be to use what I call buyer-based pricing. Instead of relying on outdated pricing models such as ARV and MAO, I teach you a more dynamic way to price property. Instead of asking buyers about what-if scenarios, as you've been taught to when you're building a buyer's list, ask them about real properties. There is a way to do it without giving away the farm. That way you get real-time, actionable information so you can speak intelligently, no matter if you know the market or not. When you know what an end-use buyer will pay, you negotiate with power. So you get more deals by winning more and losing less. The 3rd good idea comes to us from the Bible. Don't cast your pearls before swine. What do you mean by pearls? I mean your contracts. They're pearls to you. They're very, very valuable. The question comes, should you use a letter of intent? And if so, what would be a useful strategy with that? Should you use a 2-page contract that you downloaded from the internet? Should you use a state contract? What does the scenario call for? In reality, we have to determine what it's going to take to convert the lead, and each tool has its place. The second best idea that I can give you to convert more leads quickly is to relentlessly pre-qualify every lead. You got to ask them, what happens if the house doesn't sell? Because think about it, you can't want it more than they do. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. How could it? I mean, if you don't know the answer to this question, you're in trouble. What happens if it doesn't sell? And don't buy into their apparent lack of motivation, because this is perhaps the only question that matters. Finally, the most powerful idea that I can give you about lead conversion is that you must generate so that you won't have to tolerate. This idea was taught to me by Mike Ferry, and I can assure you, in real estate wholesaling, it is absolutely applicable. Instead of being stuck with what you have, look for what you want. I mean, let's just think this through together. When you put down the phone, and believe me, I've been a believer in the phone and I've used the phone for years, and when you think about it, I've made a great living from it. But when you put down the phone, the magic stops. When they throw away your direct mail, as nice as it may be, well, the magic stops. When they cut down your bandit signs, well, guess what? The magic stops. See, what we really need to do in a new century for ourselves is create systems to generate leads for ourselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How do you do that? Well, I've discovered that it's through a mix of content marketing and outbound marketing systems. One of the ways that I discovered to teach my listeners at the Red Pill Investor podcast about lead conversion is a video training series that I completed just recently called the Prospecting Academy. In this 8-week course, I taught my executive one-on-one coaching clients the ins and outs of several styles of marketing, negotiations, and much, much more. In week 1, we discussed the hot topic of content marketing and inbound marketing to get the phone ringing with motivated seller leads quickly, even the first week. I've included a complimentary copy of the Perpetual Lead System as well as the Red Pill Investor Podcast Scriptbook version 6.0, the upgraded version, to help them do it. Each week, they had 2 training sessions. One training exclusively, and another for questions, answers, and accountability to teach them, and the homework that was given to help spur their growth. In week 2, we talked about converting the leads that they'd generated during week 1, because as we all know, converting an inbound lead is way different than an outbound lead. By week 3, they were ready to start with the more challenging work of outbound lead generation, talking with expired listings, for sale by owners, and their centers of influence. We began creating letters of intent to send out and to generate business from the multiple listing service. That way, they could generate leads at will without having to wait for their phone to ring. Of course, if you're new, you're probably worried about pricing property. And that's why in week 4, I spent a lot of time exhaustively going through different scenarios and negotiating with actual sellers over the phone so you can hear me negotiate and price the property on real deals in real time. I'm constantly adding new material even to this day, even after the class has been completed. Of course, nothing beats being there. That's why I took my smartphone and recorded the actual presentations for you to see. There's no more guesswork about how to negotiate or hold appointments. You see it and hear it as it happened. If you have ever wondered what it was like to present comparables or be in a presentation for real, I take you there. Escrow itself presents its own unique sense of strategy. That's why in the 6th week of the Prospecting Academy, I spent a lot of time in there showing you how to find buyers in a market that's rising, declining, or even flat. You get to go behind the scenes and see actual presentations to an end use buyer and much, much more. Buyer curation, as well as living virtually, keeping it all together. I mean, the life doesn't mean anything if you're chained to a desk. I show you how to use common apps and your modern smartphone to make the most of every opportunity. As new information becomes available in the marketplace, the dynamic nature of the Prospecting Academy video series allows me to add more content as it becomes available. New calls, new prospects, and new scenarios. Of course, what course would be of any value if it didn't teach you closing skills? Hopefully, you're starting to see the value that the Prospecting Academy video series brings to the table. In it, you have a complete training system, teaching you as well as your staff the closing skills that they need to remain competitive. And as a special bonus, I've included a special surprise section for those who attended, a special video library of real appointments and negotiations that have never been released on the podcast or on our blog. I'm adding this to this every week. So this truly is a training system unlike anything you've ever experienced. To my knowledge, no trainer on the market today is doing live deals with Periscope and bringing the recording of the appointments back for you to see. When I originally did the Prospecting Academy, access was $3,000, and to access the videotapes along with the Facebook access itself was $500. However, I want you to have this treasure trove of information about real deals, real calls, and actual situations because I believe that it will help you. Obviously, I put a lot of time, effort, and energy into this project, but I'm willing to invest in your education by making it available to you for only $197. If you're willing to invest $197 in your business, then I pledge to continuously add new material so that you'll have an ever-growing content list of relevant, helpful, actionable, and uptime information to get real deals right now. More than training, we're talking about behind the scenes, hands-on how-to. So I thank you for paying attention, and I hope that you learned some skills that helped you in your quest. If there's anything that I can do, feel free to contact me. Thanks for watching, and I hope to help you soon. Follow me on Twitter at Karl K. Realtor for even more live Periscope deals and training. Thanks a lot, and have a powerful sales day.